Hey everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather forecast for the week of February 1st through the 7th, and also, first off, do the month of February in a general way. So we all can see where we just went through a month of very rapid changes, things going on in society, and I'm sure in most of our lives that seems to be like an acceleration of change, which is what we're really expecting this year. I talked about in my annual 2021 report for the whole year that the main aspect of this year that is driving this year is a Saturn Uranus square, which will be in effect all year and is also exact 3 different times. So this month, excuse me, February is the month that it will be exact the first time, and that I believe is on the 17th of February, the exact, but it doesn't really matter. Like I was saying in the yearly, the annual weather report, in effect, and definitely by the time Saturn got into Aquarius about a month or so ago, this square was basically in effect, and maybe even a little bit before that, because really the signs don't matter as strongly with the outer planets when they're making aspects, but this square is a very real tough thing between the two of them. So it's really now getting to the point where the first exact hit is coming in this month. And like I said, in the yearly, so that's the biggest event of February. As far as an astrological event, it is the center of February and the biggest event of the year. Going through the year, and it's all about structure falling apart. It's all about, and just remember too that Saturn is a social planet and Uranus is one of the planets of evolution. So like much of the energy that this dissolution of structure to be replaced rapidly by something new will play out on a much bigger scale than your personal life. Now, yes, it will affect our personal life, also, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later when we do the weekly part of this episode, but it, it's really things that are beyond our personal control that a lot of this Saturn Uranus will be. So like more tied in other words, to what is going on in society. And we've seen how societies like structures, Saturn, have been falling apart now for quite a while. So we're getting to this acceleration point now where the tension is just building so high that Uranus is just gonna break out of this and just push out of this and try to reform. So things breaking apart, falling apart, and creating these vacuums that that Uranus energy rushes in to fill with like creative change. And the whole point of Saturn Uranus is creative change. It really is. So, how we can bring creative change into our lives in a peaceful way would be the thing that we're trying to personally do. But, like I said, the issue with this is that Saturn and Uranus are beyond just what our individual energy can like really control very much. Is much bigger than that. So we're all going to be challenged to try to find our way through these changes and try to maintain some kind of like balance, practicality, grounding. It's going to be not an easy thing to do, but there is this opportunity that when these old structures fall apart, whether in society or in our lives, that the vacuum that is created by that can be filled in by like this Uranus energy of creative change and bringing new things into the system. So lots of tension right now really building up in that, and you can see it play out in different things in your personal life. It might be through like anyone who has authority over you, like really revolting against that because you just can't feel like you can be the person, the individual you're meant to be. You can see it in relationships too, where you can revolt against older relationships and move away from them, separate from them, that kind of thing. So it will play out in our personal lives too. But here we are going into this first exact hit. So this month is going to be very strong, tense energy between like what is structured versus what is some new way of like wanting to deal with things that are structured and tearing apart the old things. So a lot of that energy in the world, and we will see it very, very acutely this month. Now, there is a few other things I wanted to mention about February. The first couple are actually some interesting stuff. Not the biggest transits, but they are between bodies, planets that are moving slower. So there is some some background energy. The first one is Pluto sextiling Ceres, and that happens on February 8th. And it just is a way of like maybe being able to create something that's transformative and bring that to others in a very positive way. It's just learning to like care for others and self in a way that's transformative and is healing and is nurturing and brings in some sense of security even in like an insecure world. And then the very next day, Saturn sextiles Chiron. So that is really interesting because like it's like the ability to see those imbalances that the Saturn Uranus square is like in the midst of, and to actually find opportunities within them to like correct some of the imbalances, basically to like create some new structures and forms that help spread knowledge and help heal certain things, help teach and learn. So some interesting energy there. Both those, are sextiles, both those aspects. So they're opportunities and so therefore things that, we're not going to be pushed to do. But, if we see that opportunity and take those opportunities, we can use that as kind of like a healing balm for some of the more intense Saturn-Uranus energy going on. And now on the 19th, Jupiter is semi-square Ceres. So that, is just kind of warning us not to get into an exaggerated level of caretaking with others or, just trying to, take it too far and then becoming kind of almost like abrasive or self-righteous about it or something. And then on the 20th, Mercury goes direct. So remember, on Saturday last week, Mercury went into retrograde motion in Aquarius at 26 degrees. So it will turn direct on the 20th. So we have 3 weeks of February here where, time to review things, go through old things, deal with older stuff, not, expect delays and breakdowns and things like that during that time, like I said. But then on the 20th, we'll see that energy. It'll focal and get really high again right around the time the planet, when Mercury changes direction. But then it will start to ease off as the days go on in late February after that. And then real nice one too, on the 26th, Jupiter is trine the North Node. And that's just like getting like some really beneficial or advantageous connections with other people, like forming new groups, maybe sharing business or philosophical interests, things like that. So that's a really positive one for sure. It's not the super long lasting, but it will be in effect for a good part of the latter part of the month. So look for opportunities to, find some advantages associating with others, and could be good for across different levels for you. So that's the monthly. It's really driven by that Saturn Uranus square, and then really that Mercury being retrograde all month and then turning direct on the 20th. So the week of the 1st through the 7th, which is today, Monday, 1st, is a Venus week. We have Venus getting very active this week for the most part. And the week does start off on Monday with a Sun-Mars square, which was kind of a part of that full moon lineup from last week. So still a lot of physical energy to access. It can be very subjective, egotistical, kind of defensive energy. The Sun and Mars are the two most egotistical planets. They're having to do a lot with the individual. So a lot of times it's not easy to work with others under that aspect. And the best thing to do is work by yourself if possible. And like something physical too is really kind of required usually for that energy to feel good. Otherwise there's just like a lot of pent up energy, but it can get us easily overly aggressive, hostile towards others. We can also easily get into trouble with authorities or superiors over us. We can definitely rub people in personal relationships the wrong way from just being too egotistical, subjective, that kind of thing. So, but a lot of energy to tap into. So really a good day to do something physical. And so the Venus stuff is the main stuff to talk about this week. And so Venus goes into Aquarius on Monday, and joining Saturn there and Jupiter there. So like Venus in Aquarius is about lots of relationships, but relationships like that are mainly not a deeply emotional connection. It's more of an intellectual and social kind of connection that's going on. And even despite that, like a great respect for like the individual in being able to express themselves the way they want. So kind of interesting on that level. And it can be like, just like really feeling good with friends and in crowds, kind of being popular on that level, being attracted to like different kind of people, like maybe people that are into different things from you, or different cultures, different age groups, and possibly even taking that into a romantic level too, where people make different connections in a romantic level. Like they don't go with what they normally would go with, like in those situations, and are more open to unique or different, eccentric kind of relating, and redefining what relating can be. I mean, Aquarius can be very much like that, like changing, whatever it's acting through, whatever planet it's activating through, is like it can, people get like more alternative basically, and look at things in a new light, and feel maybe things in a different way that they haven't felt that way or recognized before. But what's interesting about it, since Venus is going into Aquarius, it's going to hook up with Saturn right away. So this is something that's a really big point here. Now that we have Saturn Uranus square in effect, every time another planet, that is the sun, including the sun and the moon actually, because every week it'll be the moon, what I'm about to say, and Mercury and Venus and Mars go into a fixed sign, they are going to trigger the Saturn Uranus square, and they could turn it into a T square, or they can just like press on it. So that's what this is doing. Venus is going to conjunct Saturn this week and square Uranus because they're squaring one another. So this is really like an interesting and odd place to be, because like, I was talking about how Saturn square Uranus can actually come through relationships, and it can shake relationships up, and there may be separations, and there may be loss, or there may be quick changes, or there may be new short-term type relationships, exciting kind of relationships, things like that. That Saturn square Uranus can bring alone, but when we bring Venus in, it's even more so. So like, but the Venus is conjuncting with Saturn, so normally that, like, really favors practical kind of relationships, like ones that are kind of like business-like relationships, and we can actually feel like repressed a bit with our normal relationships. So they're kind of sober and stable, but they're not really exciting, and it can also mean that resources and money are kind of limited during that time. But then you throw Uranus in there too, which kind of is like almost like, well, I want to go out and have fun in relationships, make new connections with new people that are different, that are odd, that are something that's completely different from the normal menu that I would take, almost kind of breaking away from the Saturn pattern of it, and kind of taking this, rebellious kind of stride forward. But the thing is, that throws your relationships that you have up like into this like really like upsetting kind of thing, where things are blown out in the open, and you're maybe like itching for a change so much that you're provoking disputes or arguments or fights. And at the same time, though, it blows things out in the open. And if you can find like a new place within that place of things being blown out in the open, then maybe you can start to take the relationship into a new exciting zone and start to restabilize it with the Saturn again. But this is a lot about revolting against old relationships, or the way you've done relationships, and people that you associate with that. It's interesting too, because Venus is sextile Chiron this week too, so that will help bring out like the healing that can be done by doing this. And it's not an easy task, but like I said, every time one of these guys inner planets gets involved with the Saturn Uranus square this year, and it's going to happen a lot, we're going to get a lot of tension of like the old way versus wanting to do things in a new way. So that's really what's going on here with relationship, with finances, with art, things like that. So very interesting there. And so it will be, for people, Uranus is going to be really hard on the people that really want things to remain the same and looking for some kind of stability. It does not offer that, and it's going to shake their structures up. For those who can remain flexible or maintain a good attitude about being with change, this year will be easier for you to surf than someone who is just completely resisting, because it's going to just get really upsetting. So you really just have to open up to the changes this year, and judge each situation as it comes up quickly, Uranus, what to do in that moment to try to recreate the stability, Saturn, that we require. So, last thing I want to mention this week is on Sunday, Mercury conjuncts Pallas Athene, which can really, once again, bring up a lot of creative energy on this time on the intellectual level. So the ability to use words, communication, media in very, very creative forms, things like that, will be accessible. The only thing that's a little bit odd though is at the same time it semi-squares Chiron, so it's maybe a lot of the message is kind of getting lost still. It's not being received well or something. So that can be a little bit frustrating on that level. But yeah, it's a Venus week, this first week in February, and it's all about like this Aquarian energy of wanting like new, wanting excitement, not wanting a lot of that like old stuff, old emotional stuff, baggage, things like that, repressing us or holding us back to being like more able to express who we want to be and what new forms we want to put into our life and how we want to do that through relationships and money or even art. It's all about that this week. And like I said, all this month, we move that first Saturn Pluto just becoming so exact. So we have that all, and every time these inner planets hit that, it's just going to trigger it all year. So we're just going to have to get used to that. All right, I'm Matt Lawton, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. It is a free service. I would ask you if you know of anyone that would be interested in seeing the blog or hearing the blog, to please pass it on to them. If you want to give a donation, I'm more than willing to accept donations. And I do all kinds of readings, and we have classes going on for beginning astrology, all that stuff. If you want to talk to me about it, please email me at MATTHUE 823 at gmail.com. So that's MATTHUE at gmail.com, and we can talk about prices, things like that, all kinds of different readings available, birth chart or natal, predictive, relationship. If you need an election for a good time or for something, horary questions, things like that. And then the class is still at that beginner's level, $25 a class, or 20 if you're a student with a student ID, and available on Dropbox right now. Once again, email me and we'll set that up for you, and you can do it either sequentially as a student or just individual classes of things you'd be interested in. Like I said, the zodiac is up there, some other stuff too. Next class will be probably on rising signs, the cross of matter, so some interesting stuff there for sure. All right, until next week, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. We are on YouTube. Become a follower. You need to sign up. Then become a follower. Turn your notifications on. Also available on multiple podcasts. So just whatever podcast you use, Spotify, Apple iPodcasts, whatever it may be, the Astrological Winds is being picked up by a few of them. So just just look it up when you get on, and you should be able to find me on podcasts too. All right, Matt Lawton here, signing off from the Astrological Winds channel, and have a good week, and just try to use that Venus energy, to clear out what you need to get straight in those relationships, rebuild from a new place. All right, I will see you all next week.